Yeah, so thinking processes and thoughts, they certainly hold some sort of frequency, and even on MRI scans, a certain thinking process will show up as an energetic frequency. So you can have little pads on your head, and in one of these brain scans, you can be shown images that may trigger certain habitual thinking processes. So automatically, you will see something, and based on how you're brought up and based on our own personality, we're going to have a certain reaction to certain things. And then this shows up, and also we can consciously delve into certain memories that hold a certain positive thinking process that we connect to it, or a negative one, something that we enjoyed, something that we an experience of love, or when we met a lover, or when we broke up, or when we had a fight, or when we were there's so many different memories, and they will all have different frequency. They will all have a different energetic output, even physically, in the sense of MRI scans and so forth. And then, of course, we have the chemical aspect, where different thoughts have different chemicals related to them. Serotonin relates to happiness, and that will again relate to certain thinking processes. So, depression, what's going on there? You could say it's a lot to do with diet. Diet is certainly part of it, because it's to do, you have to have the right building blocks for your brain to produce the right um, neurochemicals, the right chemicals and neurotransmitters, sorry. And dopamine, for instance, and there's certain foods that I've mentioned, like mucuna, that enhance dopamine, and a lot of foods rich in amino acids, maybe spirulina, for instance. They will also help to build up essential proteins that are building blocks for neurotransmitters and yeah. So these things have to be there. We have to have a good and balanced diet. But if you can have someone in a prison who's not able to do anything, not able to go into nature, have a balanced diet, they may still have illnesses. They may still have serious depression and mental anguish, and so yeah. So it's, if you're meditating, then there's not much difference between a prisoner and a monk. And the monk are some of the happiest people on earth when they've been tested. They found that some of the Tibetan monks and people who have been tested, certain yogis, they are equated to the happiest people on earth, because of the parts of the parts of their brain that are lit up, and the chemical release associated with that, serotonin. All these things seem to show that they are some of the happiest people, most content people on the planet. So meditation is a large part of this, in the sense of this is from my experience. There might be a lot more to it, and more other people can bring to the table. But certainly, with meditation, you've got a greater awareness of yourself, a greater awareness of your thinking process, and that enables us to cut through old habits. That enables us to see things pop up before we necessarily express them, or before we even experience them. So something that may have been habitual, we can become very aware of it after doing a certain amount of meditation or martial arts. It's something that brings a lot more awareness into the moment. And meditation, certainly, we become much more aware of our thinking processes. And then that enables us to sort of reprogram how we're thinking, or at least to look and reason it through on an intellectual level. With addiction, intellectually, we can at least reason it through and say, well, I enjoy it. Do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy the results of it? Is there a long-term benefit? Is it just short-term benefit? Is it good for people around you? Is it good for the planet as a whole? Is it good for your health? Is it good for your mental health? Is it good for your social life? All these things can be asked, and 9 times out of 10 with a lot of habits and addictions, the answer is no. And then with meditation, then we can actually be aware of that time so we don't just do it habitually, like quickly spark up a fag without realizing. If you're aware of a whole thinking process, you'll be aware that the thought has come up. Now, is that thought a fresh thought? Is that something? No, it's not. It would be said that it's not coming from the neocortex, the human part of the brain, where we're able to have capable of fresh thoughts, new inspiration, and that can override everything else. So a thought of love can override the reptilian brain, which is maybe flight or fight, or where a lot of paranoia and things stem. And depression, of course, can be also equated to fear of not having enough, fear of security, fear for many things. If we switch our thinking pattern from fear to gratitude, love, faith, look at reasons to be happy, or have faith that at least things won't get any worse. And even if they do, people have been through worse, no doubt. I've heard of Tibetan lamas and monks who were tortured for 10 years, and apparently their overriding thought after the time was that my only fear was losing love for the torturers. And yeah, I mean, that says a lot about mentality and how powerful it is. And I know from my own experience, I've seen depression go really deep and then switch quite quickly just from me changing my patterns of thinking, changing a bit of perspective. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there for now, and we might go a bit deeper into this and how meditation, prayer. I mean, prayer is really looking at things in a wider perspective. It's looking at our intentions. If we're not asking for something specific, it's really looking at our intentions and what we want and putting them out there and saying, I'll leave that to the universe. But also with the faith that if you're praying to God, you're praying to the universe, you're praying to a higher being. That the faith is they know what's in your best interest. So you leave it to nature, because what we think might be best may not be best, and it may not be best for us. It may not be best for anyone. So. I guess that's part of prayer as well, but that's all. I think that's also taught on the 12-step program. I've never actually done that myself, but I've heard that's part of it: letting go and letting God, or letting creation guide us. And then you can have the faith, and then there's at least faith. And also, if we know we're part of nature, we're part of the universe, similar to how the Taoists looked at things. They were a Chinese, you could say, religion, but more of a philosophy or an outlook on life. Falling in tune with the Tao was falling in tune with the way. You could say with God, with the divine, with the creative force of life, with the force, as the Jedis would say, with the chi. With the Tao is different from chi because it encompasses chi and thought and energy and spirit worlds and this world and everything in between, and that's part of the Tao, the way, and we all have our own way. And if we have faith that we, like the birds, they don't need mobile phones to communicate. They don't need maps to know where they're going, or GPS. They don't need supermarkets or money or social, police or army or anything like this. And they're tiny little animals. They don't even need jackets. They've got a few feathers. Look at robins, amazing. So yeah, we can have a bit of faith just looking at the rest of nature, knowing we are part of nature. So surely we're looked after as much as nature. We don't always need the things we think we need to survive. And then with that thought, flight or fight mechanism does not have to kick in when we don't feel we have enough to eat or not, because we know we're part of nature. If we fall in tune with nature, we'll be looked after. And also knowing there's more to life than just the body, more to life than just what's happening here and now. In a lot of cultures, there's no death. There's just a long dream. I think in the Aboriginal culture they call it dream time, and a long dream that changes. And you could say death is just part of that change. So I've heard of people who have been told they've got weeks to live, and they find a peace and they find a happiness. They've done experiments, I think, at Johns Hopkins University with magic mushrooms, and this is worth also looking at and researching, because they found massive leaps and bounds in modern times with the psychedelic research, because they've re-legalized it, I think in the last 10, maybe 20 years, where it was banned. So now they've been doing a lot more research into these things. But I think even when magic mushrooms were first tested, they found they occasioned sort of mystical experience quite often. and this was found to be very, very beneficial in people who were in hospices or given a short amount of time to live. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. Have a good night, take it easy. Steve-O out. Bless.